Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Welcome, Nate. Good to have you on the show, sir. Cheers. Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, Nate Adams is our guest today. He is the author of the Home Comfort book and the founder of HVAC 2.0. Hails from Cleveland originally, now in West Virginia. And his goal is that everyone can comfortably, healthfully, and renewably have a powered home. I've read that totally wrong. Dude, your English on this is awful. Everyone can have a comfortable, healthy, renewable powered home and should be able to have one. There we go. Got that right.
Now you know what I was struggling with. What I was struggling with when I was typing when we were trying to get our preamble show. I'm like, what the fuck did I even write?
Oh man, I even practiced.
Sorry,
it
I didn't
and
speak
I was like,
Canadian
this doesn't
for
sound
you.
right, but I got it.
In my defense, I copied and pasted what you put, Nate.
And for those of you who thought I might have been drinking before the show, I promise I wasn't. That was only Nate. So Nate, welcome, sir.
nothing like throwing our guests under the bus to start off. No, we joke quite a bit. I've been chatting with Nate back and forth on Messenger and LinkedIn in both places, and joking quite a bit back and forth. So a little bit of a pre-established report. I have a little bit of fun on it. So plus I'm in a fun mood today for whatever reason.
There we go. Awesome. Well, Nate, why don't you go ahead and introduce HVAC 2.0? What is it all about? And what is it that got you into the home comfort consulting side of the business?
Well, why don't I tackle the second one first? So
Let's do it.
I come at this from kind of the wrong direction. So I used to work for an insulation manufacturer. And then the last housing boom or bust rather, my job disappeared along with millions of others. And so I started an insulation contracting company doing retrofit insulation and really began to dig into building science and how to actually fix problems at their root rather than just playing with symptoms. But then as I dug further, I found there were a bunch of houses that I couldn't fix with insulation. Plus, I was starting to hate my job because as I learned how to do better work, I couldn't charge for it. So my margins went bloop. So I was working 80 hours a week to make Walmart wages at best. And it's like, this is dumb. It's my own treadmill. I built it. I turned it on. I kept speeding it up so I can stop it. And that was really painful. That was like 2 months of Monday. Trying to back out of a contracting company. And so I was ready to leave. I was done. Like, I don't need to be in this industry. I can be somewhere else, whatever. I like learning things. What am I doing with my life? And meanwhile, my business partner and I had been chatting. So we weren't partners then. We were just friends. And so in the insulation business, my average sale was like $2,500. Which is okay, but that's a lot of work and a lot of sales time going into not a whole heck of a lot of dollar margin, even if the percentages are okay. And he kept telling me, Nate, my average sale is $16,800. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, something's going on. How can you be doing that much more? You must know something I don't. And so he started pulling me in, and we started adapting what he was doing to what I was doing, basically as I was riding the insulation company out of business. I'm trying to back all this up. But the answer turned out to be I needed to know HVAC as well as insulation. So it's kind of like diet and exercise. Like if you really want to lose a lot of weight or get healthy, you really can't do just diet or just exercise. You need both. And so HVAC and air sealing and insulation are kind of the equivalent for houses to make houses work the way they should. And so then we started digging into these really complicated houses where like almost every time I'm just like, holy crap, what the hell am I doing? I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if these contractors are going to show up. It's like the first time I've worked with some of these contractors. And we did things like pull the entire roof off of a house, sheathing it all so you can see the drywall. And then like the spray foam contractors needed to show up. Both contractors, the roofing and the insulation guys, had to play together reasonably well. And then we had to get the sheathing back on and at least get the house dried back in all in the same day. And you're just watching the forecast and wondering what's going on. We're doing these kind of exotic things. And it was cool to figure that out. And all of a sudden, my average project was a little over $30,000. So, we were doing it. But it's like, so what we see in the building performance world, which is primarily government money and utility money that runs it, is people find their own little piece and they figure out how to make their own business work. But then they never really put the effort into figuring out how do we create a model that other people can follow. So in figuring out these pretty deep retrofits, we started looking around. So how can we make this normal? How can we teach other people how to do this, frankly, really complicated thing? And the more we dug into it, the more we realized if we screw up, we sell a piece of HVAC. Like that's the bad thing that comes out of the process. So it's like, all right, so let's meet some HVAC contractors. And Bill Spohn of True Tech Tools. I don't know, have you guys had him on yet?
No.
All right, well, we'll make that happen.
Perfect, love it.
He's an engineer and very nerdy, but also a lot of fun. And watch for the puns. The puns are going to be fast and furious coming your way from Bill. But Bill invited me to come down to do a content mastermind with Brian Orr of HVAC School. And this was about 4 years ago now. And I met some HVAC contractors. And like, all right, so how do we take this advanced process that we've built and inject it into the HVAC business model without screwing them up? Because the problem is a lot of times somebody will be like, oh, yeah, so you can do this, but you have to take your whole business and make it turn really hard. And then you crash and the business dies, which is basically what happened to me. I mean, building performance ruined my life as an insulation contractor. I made a bunch of money doing bad work, and I made no money doing good work.
And you want to make a bunch of money doing good work.
Exactly. So that's the goal. And so started meeting great guys like Stephen Raridan and Neil Comparetto and Michael Hausch, and like all of these names you'll see that are commenting, and just they're both very smart and very giving people. And so we've assembled this kind of killer group of techs. And I'm the lone one that's not a tech. If you give me a broken piece of equipment, I'm gonna be like, so here's my phone. I have YouTube and I have the phone numbers of a whole bunch of really good techs. Let's call them and figure out what we do now. That's not my thing. Right. I know the building shell part. I'm good at the air sealing and the insulation and the diagnostics and the project management and that sort of thing. I don't know the HVAC. But the other thing that happened in working with my partner was he figured out that he liked electrification doing his mom's house. So his mom lived in Rochester, New York. She passed away a couple of years ago now. And he really likes making houses comfortable. So if you have any rooms where it doesn't heat well or doesn't cool well, you don't want to use it some of the year, that's like a super common thing that people have. So his mom had a bunch of stuff like that. And so he sold her a hybrid. It was a 3-ton heat pump on top of a 60,000 BTU modulating furnace. And it was 5 degrees out, whatever that works out to in Celsius, minus 20-ish, something like that, 18, 20.
Did you just, yeah, no, sorry, never mind. I'm like, whatever that works out in Celsius, I'm like, right. I was thinking in my head, like, did you just quote Celsius? No, you talked Fahrenheit.
Well, I gave you both, 5 Celsius.
Celsius.
I'm sorry, 5 Fahrenheit minus 20 Celsius. Anyway, his mom calls him on a 5-degree day, which is the design temperature for Rochester, New York, and says, Teddy, it's okay, but there's cold air coming out of the vents. It's still holding 70, but I thought it would be warm air coming out. And he's like, holy crap, they forgot to turn the furnace on. They'd never turned the gas valve on to let the furnace work. So the heat pump was carrying his mom's 2,500 square foot house on a 5-degree day. And he's like, well, why the hell do we have the furnace? Because the house is way more comfortable with this piece of equipment. And then it led us down the whole electrification path. So while we're learning all the shell stuff, when you start tightening a house and making it so they don't need as much to heat or cool, you get into heat pump territory really quickly. You're getting into the 20 to 40,000 BTU range where furnaces aren't good. So you're in a heat pump territory. So presto, we're into electrification, whether we meant to be or not, because it was, it made for better customer experiences. So that's kind of the path that we took. And so now we've taken this process and we've got it worked out so it actually works okay for people. Because one of the key things we needed to do is bringing in building performance and mixing it with HVAC has been tried a bunch of times, but it is a real business killer. I joke, like, if you want to turn your business into a dumpster fire, bring in building performance and building science. Like, you will destroy your business. I've watched it happen so many times.
Why is that? Because I know that, like, in the document that you shared with me prior to the show, you had the burning trash can in there quite frequently, and I thought it was hilarious and it was awesome. But why would somebody, if they want to bring in building sciences in that, why would it kill their business?
So people tend to get too technical and lose the sales and marketing piece. So we see people start to worship the diagnostics. Like, if you have a tool to diagnose something, I mean, you guys do SEO. Do you worship Google AdWords? No, it's a tool to get you where you want to go. The problem is a lot of people start looking at the tools and they're like, oh, that's so cool. And they take off and go down a rabbit hole. Meanwhile, their customer's like, what the hell? Can I just get my furnace replaced? Like, that's what I called you for. Like, you're killing me. So they end up killing sales. And changing things around. So it's this weird mixture of, you need to diagnose enough to have basically a high odds solution. So if you do this, it's like 80% odds of working. We never give anybody guarantees as for something working, because houses are complicated. There's lots of things we can't deal with. Homeowners operate things stupidly sometimes. I mean, they do. I mean, I'm guilty sometimes too. We all do dumb things with our houses. Running temperatures all over the place, closing doors, closing registers, just all opening and closing windows, letting all the humidity in, then wondering why mold grows everywhere. There's all these things that people can do that screw it up. But you just need to learn enough to have a good diagnosis, if that makes sense, without going too far. And the problem is most people get sucked in, and it's almost romantic. Going with the tools. I got a hard time for a meme the other day. It was a picture of a Snap-on truck, and right below the top step, it said, after this step, it's consensual. And so if you aren't in the blue collar world, you don't get what that means. So a Snap-on truck turns grown men into 5-year-old boys who are just like, I want to buy. But everything's like at least $1,000 on that truck. Like you want a ratchet set, it's $500. Just basic tool set. And so the problem is some people tend to get too caught up in that rather than keeping their focus on what the client wants and helping the client solve problems within a budget that they have. And that's where the magic ends up coming. So as long as you use the diagnostic tools to help the client solve what they want, you're going to sell stuff that will shock the heck out of you. One of our guys just ripped a 6-month-old HVAC system out of a 6-month-old house, sold them a $24,000 hybrid system, and they're happy about it.
Wow.
Ask contractors how often they pull stunts like that. They don't. But that's what the process will do for you, because he just listened to the clients, and these rooms don't heat or cool well, even though it's a new house, and this isn't right, and this isn't right. And he runs a load calc. He's like, well, it's twice too big, and it's single stage, so it's never going to run.
Right.
And so that leads to really bad comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't ask the questions and give clients time to kind of work through that, you aren't going to sell anything. And if you try to overeducate them, you don't sell anything either. So long answer, but there's the answer.
We will dive into that, but Tersh Blissett, big fan, been on the show. Nate, on that.
Tersh is awesome.
Tersh is awesome. Runs a fully, like, this is the part that blew me when we had him on the show. Blew my mind. Sorry, I shouldn't say blew me. That's just down my mind from the gutter for the rest of the show. It's gonna be one of those Wednesdays. It's gonna be one of those Wednesdays. Is that it blew my mind? Is that he runs a completely remote HVAC business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no, and complete paperless. Like, there's no office, there's no shop, there's no warehouse. It's paperless, it's remote. It's amazing. So some phenomenal things that he has going on there. So walking backwards into the HVAC 2.0 process, and you want to solve the problems and you want to do it within a budget. Obviously, that gets into the sales territory, and I want to try to follow this logically here, because we go, obviously, marketing gets the foot in the door, and so when you have this different approach, well, first off, walk us through the brief difference in the free quote versus the comfort consult, because that's the big difference of what you're doing here. But then when you have that free quote versus the comfort consult, how do you go about marketing that in a way that the customer knows exactly why you're there? You're not there to just give them a quote. You're there to walk them through the comfort consult process. So it's kind of a two-phase question, and hopefully that follows for you.
Yep, that works. So let's start with, like you said, free quote versus comfort consult. So does anybody actually like free quotes? Like, some idiot thought that it would be a good idea, instead of charging $60 or $100 to go to the house for a trip charge, we're just going to give it to them. And they end up lowering the bar. Free quotes actually that destroys work quality, because now you're trying to guess what the client will buy. That you're not likely to get the jobs at that point, because it doesn't lend itself to a good relationship. So closing ratios usually go down with free quotes too. So I digress. So free quotes, what's that?
I was just going to say, even from a customer's perspective, I mean, when I hear free quote, I'm expecting to be sold to.
Yes.
Right. And nobody likes to be sold to. Everybody likes to buy.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Sorry for interrupting. Go on.
No, that's no problem. That ties right in. So if you can change your mindset to where, okay, I'll do a free quote, but a free quote is truly a like for like. I will come in, I will read what the numbers say, and I will quote you that same stuff, good, better, best, and I'm out of here. Like Little Johnny's room. Well, so we have a service, if you'd like, to help you diagnose and fix that, or I can just quote you to do this. Do you have a preference between those two? But so the comfort consult is trying to figure out basically what do they want to fix, what does the house need, and what's it worth, if you think of like a Venn diagram, 3 circles. But taking a step back, how do you get there? So on the marketing side with 2.0, I do have to say, we assume you know how to fish. So what you all do in SEO and bringing people in, you need to know how to get people to your website and on the phone and all that sort of thing. We aren't teaching you how to do that part. Once you get them there, we're basically going to help you get them in the boat. So you can offer the free quote and the comfort consult, and here's how you help people decide. You ask them what we call the 4 questions, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it's not a problem, 10 being it's a huge problem. Are there any rooms that don't heat well? Second question, any rooms that don't cool well? Third question, are there any health issues in the house? And fourth question, are there any moisture issues in the house? So you have them rank those, and we have a little quiz for doing that. It's so they can do it online. They don't have to feel like they're being pressured, or you can ask it with the CSR. And by seeing whether they have problems to solve or not, you can help steer them one way or the other. Or sometimes it's really obvious. If something's really screwed up, all right, you probably should do a comfort consult, because otherwise, if we just replace like with like, you can expect to get exactly what you're getting, possibly worse, because the more efficient equipment can actually bring more problems with it, ironically. The key is you're just trying to educate the client So we say you educate and then you offer options. And you educate and you offer options. You just go back and forth and back and forth. So you're letting them be in control, but you are controlling the path, if that makes sense. So like you were saying earlier, Evan, you're not selling them, you're letting them buy.
Mm-hmm.
So here's your choices. What do you want? And that's where the magic of it comes. And so we're watching our guys. They are about halving the amount of time they're spending on free quotes without hurting their closing ratios. Because if they're a tire kicker, they're a tire kicker. You weren't going to get them anyway. Where if they have something that's real with the Comfort Consult, so Reedy Ward in particular, he does the best job tracking his numbers early into this program. So he started using it a little over a year ago. His closing ratio went from 45 to 52%, depending on the month, up to 70 to 82%. And his average ticket went from 10 grand to 16. And that's been pretty consistent. And he likes his life better. He doesn't feel like he's selling anymore. He doesn't own problems because he offered clients different options and said, you could do this, this, or this. Here's the pros and cons. Which ones do you want? And so it really just helps solve a lot of problems. And then if you get through the Comfort Consult is trying to answer the question, is HVAC alone likely to solve the problems in that house? And if the answer is yes, now you've run a blower door test. You've gotten their energy bills. And with those two, you can take a load calculation from being literally plus or minus 70%. Like, it's a freaking guess. I have no idea what the answer is. I mean, I could just play with a few things in any load calc, and I can make a house a ton and a half, like 18,000 BTUs. I can make it 110. I'd be happy to play with the numbers and make it do whatever you want. So if you don't get some extra information to tighten that band, you don't know what size is right. And if you don't know what size is right, you're not going to have any balls when it comes to sizing. You don't want to call back when it's really hot or really cold, so you're going to go a step too big. I see Man J's all the time. It'll come in at 67,000. It'll be like, we'll put an 80 in. No, put the 60 in. You might even get away with a 40. Like if you actually did the math, you may find it. We find you can discount manual J's by 30 to 60% and still cover worst case load.
Wow.
So I know that's more technical than perhaps you were hoping for there, but it's an important thing because the more you can downsize equipment, the more it runs. And the more it's washing all the walls and surfaces in the house with slightly warmed or slightly cooled air all the time. And so what that does is all the walls and surfaces and materials in your house get very close in temperature to what the thermostat says, where if the heat turns on and then turns off and turns on and turns off, you may literally have a cold couch. And so that can be a problem. Just houses don't feel right. So you're delivering the heat, but you're doing it poorly. Right. So you need to be able to downsize. And the Comfort Consult, because you now know a whole bunch of stuff about the house you didn't before, you can pick the right size. So right now, sizing HVAC is truthfully like walking into a store, asking the clerk, so what size do you think I wear? Like, somewhere between a small and a double X. I don't know. But you have to buy it. You can't return it. It's $10,000.
Yep.
So it's not like you can, just grab a whole bunch off the rack and go in and find out what size it is. You have to buy an expensive product to figure it out. So this really helps with that. And in sizing equipment correctly and educating consumers in the different types of equipment, now they're much more likely to buy higher end stuff, which usually comes with a bigger margin. So you get bigger tickets, bigger margins, a higher closing ratio because you're actually fixing stuff for them.
Makes sense. So in a regular business, because you talk about the fishing and you're giving them the boat so that they can continue to fish from, when those leads come in, are you essentially treating them all the same? Do they get a special sort of a treatment because of the Comfort Consult, or is just, hey, once you get in the door, that's when you're gonna start doing the HVAC 2.0 stuff, or is there something that leads into that?
That's a good question. So the first piece is everyone needs to be asked the 4 questions to help them decide which fork is right. The second piece is, which I neglected to mention, is you want to send them, it's the second chapter from my book, which is hilarious because we thought that everybody would like the first chapter. No, they don't. It's okay, but it's too long. The second chapter is about HVAC. It's called HVAC 101, and it compares the HVAC in your car to the HVAC in your house. So everyone intuitively understands how HVAC works. They just don't realize it. So like in your car, obviously sometimes you get in and it's really hot or really cold, so you run it full tilt. But once the car is up to temperature, do you have it set to full hot or full cold?
Yeah, you turn it down.
Yeah. Not unless you're in Canada and it's minus 30 Celsius.
Yeah, well, there's no amount of heat that you can pump in that car that's going to warm you up.
Right? Yeah. Minus 40 is cold as balls in both.
But
that's where they cross.
But it's a good analogy. I think about like when we go to Phoenix, right? And we're there in May when it's 100, 120 Fahrenheit. Like you can literally crack. I've been tempted to crack an egg on the pavement and see if it'll cook. Like it gets that hot. You're right. You crank it, and then after you get to a certain point, then you're down a little bit, and you're maintaining that temperature.
Exactly. So your car has variable output HVAC. It has variable speed fan. It's only like 4 speeds, 3 speeds, whatever, but it's got several. You have fresh air. There's the little knob for sliding back and forth to the button, depending on the age of your car. And then you have dehumidification on demand. It looks like your air conditioner button. So you have a dehumidifier. So that gives you everything you need. Oh, and then it has filtration on the air coming in as well. Right. So you have a near perfect HVAC system. And I thought about this because my wife's first car, we bought very used. It was 1992 Corolla that we bought for $500. There was one rust hole big enough in it you could put a softball through it. And I thought about it, like the air conditioner still worked, which was pretty cool. It had 128,000 miles on it at that point. The air conditioner still worked. And I'm like, this has a better HVAC system than 99% of houses out there. And this car is a piece of crap. What does that say? And so because consumers intuitively understand how HVAC works, they just haven't translated from their car to their house. When you do that, now they're like, well, okay, so now I understand 2-stage or variable speed is not trying to sell me something. It's there's benefits that come with it. And then you have to decide, are the benefits worth the extra cost? Right. That come with it. And so like Reedy Ward, I was mentioning earlier, like he's selling straight green speeds all the time now, which is the single most expensive residential piece of equipment on the market. It's like $7,000 wholesale for the indoor and outdoor unit. It's really expensive. There's very few other products that are upwards of $5,000. What's that? Oh, Tersh.
Yeah, I was laughing. I don't know if it'll. So he just says it pisses me off the most. I hate when my kids turn the thermostat to 90 every time they get in the Suburban in the morning. Just set it to 73 and leave it alone.
You got it, man.
Yeah, but it is.
It's worse when they turn it up in the goddamn house, though.
Yeah.
I've had that battle. I used to just set it at like we have the auto thermostat, so at night it drops to 65, and in the winter it turns up to 72 during the day and stays there during the day at 72, and then drops back down to 65. Well, I've lost the battle at 70. Now it's like 72, 74, 76. It just keeps getting warmer and warmer and warmer. I'm like, fuck, keep it one temperature, put on another layer. But anyways, so with those 4 questions, I had a light bulb go off when you're saying that. Is that something that in maybe this is something that's worth a test with some clients who are running the marketing, who can have that, to go in with ammo ahead of time. And I don't necessarily want to use the word ammo ahead of time. Yeah. It's information to be able to adequately have that conversation with the homeowner. I mean, I see survey prior to even going there. It's saying, hey, here's the 4 questions. Or is it better to run those 4 questions when you're in the home with somebody? Have you ever had anybody test those out with that? Or
we haven't in the home yet. This has all been ahead of time. And we only just got it working within the software where you can put a link on your website and it'll zoom them right to the software and they can answer it. And then the test is automatic. So you just move a slider back and forth, and then it'll score it for you and tell you which direction to lean, and then give you a video to watch to understand what the difference is between the two, and go from there. But ideally, that is something that you want service techs to do. Because if they're already there and, it's a 25-year-old piece of equipment and, I say like, what people don't always understand what end of useful life is. End of useful life is a 200,000 mile car. It might go to 300. It might die tomorrow. It's anybody's ball game. So now's the time to make a plan so that when it does die, it's not, oh my goodness, what do I have to do? What size do I need? And then they call the first person who shows up with the first piece of equipment they can get. And it's always wrong. And that's a 15 or 20-year decision that the only way to fix it is to rip out a brand new piece of equipment and put another one in, like Jeff Howard just did with a 6-month-old house. I still don't believe he did that. He holds the record. So I did one at 3 years. First piece of equipment I ever sold. I didn't even know what like a furnace and a boiler were. I really didn't. And my partner coaches me through like, so here's what you do. You ask them this and you go through this and you go through this. And they had a way oversized furnace. They had a 120,000 BTU 2-stage furnace in their house. The load on their house was like 50. So low stage was 50% too large when it was 0 degrees outside. Like it was just hugely wrong for the house. So we changed it out for basically the same piece of equipment, another 2-stage, but a 70,000. And I get a phone call. I can't believe what it did for the house. We just right-sized it. It wasn't even right still. It's still too big. But that HVAC contractor was chicken and he wouldn't do the 60 that we asked for. But that was one where I looked at Ted and I'm just like, they just ripped out a 3-year-old furnace that they bought and put another furnace in that's basically the same piece of equipment. It just blew my mind that happened. And now we're watching other people do it. But Jeff holds the record, so we'll see if anybody can change one out that's less than 6 months old. So, Jeff, you set the bar high, buddy.
Yes, Tersh. That is what we're seriously telling you. That's the easy way.
It's funny though. Like I used to be a comfort advisor. Yeah. So I used to be a comfort advisor, and I did it for a short period of time when I was trying to figure out if I was actually good at sales or if I could just sell the one product that I was selling at the time. And so I get hit up by a headhunter, go show up and do it. Well, that was one of the things that they told me was, one, always just when in doubt, go with the same size that's in there. 2, always round up, which both goes counterintuitive to what you just shared. Yep. Right. So it's incredible what misinformation is out there, even by owners and leaders of organizations, when it comes to how to properly size a unit for a home. And in this case, you're increasing your average sale and selling a smaller size unit by just doing things properly. Yep. And what it's relating back to is not necessarily trying to make a bigger sale. It's trying to provide the benefit, right? Which is what you were getting at earlier. We're not selling features, we're selling benefits. How do we make people feel comfortable within the home? When in doubt,
we're not even selling benefits. We're solving pain. Maybe for you, Tersh, you better be careful with that up north. You get your butt kicked. I've seen $1,000 January bills from heat pump houses. Yeah. Sometimes it's because the house is too leaky and it shouldn't have had that piece of equipment. Right. And sometimes it's because the thermostat was stupid. One of them would only run the heat pump for 15 minutes before it kicked the resistance on. Right. When it's cold out, the heat pump should never shut off, like ever. And it did. So after doing all this testing on that guy's house, I was like, buy an Ecobee. And then he gets the Ecobee and he puts it on himself. And I'm like, all right, let's do a video call. And I'm going to tell you how to set it up. And he sets it up and it's saving him $1,500 a winter. Wow. And it's just like, commissioning. Like it's just small little things.
Well, and then it saves them $1,500. If you can calculate that prior to even doing your quote, guess what you do? Well, now you can say, okay, well, over the course of X amount of years, you've essentially paid for your install, right? I mean, within a reasonable number. I mean, obviously, you don't know that until necessarily after the fact, but that's a huge thing to be able to add into that.
It can be. At the end of the day, we find people don't care. Right. That one client did because he had an obscene bill, but that's top couple percent kind of thing. Yeah,
it's the snowstorm in Texas.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'll never happen. Oh, wait, it happened again. That was actually like the third or fourth time something nearly of that severity had happened. So, yeah, that was a train wreck. Anyway, you're pulling me to the clean grid side, which I also am relatively comfortable in. That's a whole nother story. But it's just important to do your best to size well.
Right.
But so here's a really important part that comes in for HVAC contractors. All of them hate callbacks. Callbacks are expensive. They're annoying. They burn up a lot of emotional energy. They can earn you a bad review. There is nothing good about callbacks. So you want to leave your warranty reserve alone, if at all possible. Now, the way to do that is actually Bill Spohn ended up coining this while we were having a conversation on his podcast a while ago. It's responsibly avoiding responsibility. So if you offer a client choices and you pro and con both, and you let them know, if you do this, this is the likely thing that's going to happen. And if you do that, this is a likely thing that's going to happen. And they choose the thing that's going to be a bad path. When they call you, you need to have it in writing. So it's important to, have emails back and forth. But if you have it in writing, you can be like, well, so would you like to try that other service that we mentioned? If they take a free quote and it doesn't work, rather than being like, oh, now I got to go and, send a guy. And oftentimes callbacks, it's like a bad magician. It's like, look over here, while you do nothing over here. Like if an air conditioner is oversized, you turn your fan speed down, and then basically you're done. Like there's really almost nothing else you can do.
Right.
If it's a single stage air conditioner, there's very few changes you can make. So you have to keep sending the tech out and pretending like you're making a difference and wearing the client down and hoping they don't leave you a bad review or hoping that they'll take the edge off their bad review that they left you. And that's no good. But if you can, though, you have to educate them well, which you can do automatically through sending like HVAC 101. So like if you can show them, hey, I sent you that chapter 4 times before you bought, or 3 times before you bought. You bought single stage. I offered you the different ones. So would you like me to come and pull that out? I'm wondering which one that is.
Yeah, well, and you're saying something that I read in the briefs of preparing for the show was offer decline.
Yep.
And this is actually Tanner Dickinson mentioned this in the group. Nice. Unfortunately, when you comment in the group and you don't give StreamYard permission, you can't show your name and picture or whatever. But minor details. It's just one of those things. It's a nuance within the platform that we use, but it's still good. But offer decline is a beautiful thing. So you're essentially offering them their choices and letting them decide and letting them decline or take on whichever system that they want in terms of the package that you presented to them. And then it doesn't feel like you're selling. And I do want to get into the selling part of things because I know that you have a pretty unique method, from that. But first off, the random question generator, to segue into that, because I love the random question. It's one of our favorites. So, and that's actually funny. Evan and I, before you jumped on, we were talking about loosely this topic in a sense, but does having a day off for a holiday increase or decrease productivity at work? So does having a day off for a holiday increase or decrease productivity at work?
Do I get to listen to you guys' answers first?
No, you're answering it. This is for our guests.
I am so bad at taking days off. I don't even feel like I can hardly answer that question. It should increase productivity. I mean, the 7th day and all is supposed to be the Sabbath, and then I'm just terrible about that. I just switch tasks. We work on the house instead.
But that's also something. So like I kind of get a little. I'm very passionate about this topic in particular, and I've actually, and it's. I mean, I guess we can talk about it because, well, it's something that we asked, right? So 70% of North Americans, or up to 70% of North Americans, don't take all of their vacation days. That's nuts, right? When you look at like in its 2 to 3 weeks of vacation in a year, when you look at places like Europe, in places over there, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks vacation minimum, and you're mandated to take them. I mean, Paris and France has in, you can't respond back to emails after a certain time, or you can get fined because they want to encourage the work-life balance. So, but what you're talking about is you're switching tasks. So you're not actually vis-a-vis quote unquote vacation or day off. You're actually taking a day off from your business. Now you're doing another task. And so when you come back to your business, you're likely more productive. You have more productivity in your business because you're not
100%.
in your business 7 days a week. So there's a nuance there in your answer that that has like, okay,
Joe.
Hey Joe, overtime Joe, right there. Hey boys.
Fellow Canadian.
He is a fellow Canuck. So had a lot of conversations with Joe. Actually, I jumped onto his streamer with him and A-Team Adam one time, just shooting shit one evening after work. So it was a good conversation. So
those two were awesome.
Oh, phenomenal people, phenomenal individuals. They got a great show, HVAC Overtime. Be sure to check out their podcast as well. Yes, you were. I know I haven't listened to the episode. They go live 7 p.m. Eastern?
Central,
7 p.m. Central on YouTube.
I'm pretty sure it's 8 o'clock
every Friday. So, well, he can correct us. He's listening. So, unless he's on time delay, because sometimes when you watch the live, you actually start at the beginning, and then you can watch through. So you come in at different points. Yeah. So you can come on at different points during the live on Facebook, and how we do that. But anyways, the idea of vacation time, 8 Central. There we go.
Central.
So,
there we are.
8 Central, 7 Mountain, 9
Hey,
Eastern.
if we're giving a shout out to them, we got to give a shout out to Tersh too and his show, because his show's pretty awesome too.
Yes.
Business Mastery. Man, he's got just an immense amount of content there. Tersh, I don't know how you make that much stuff.
But
I'd say how do you sleep, but I know that he has insomnia, so he does it.
Him and Thad both.
Yeah, so what you're saying is when I wake up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning and can't fall back asleep, I can message Tersh and we can have a conversation. So since we're in the part of shout out, so just to wrap up the vacation part of things and day off, it actually is statistically, it has been proven, it is scientifically proven that vacation time increases productivity, time off increases productivity for the high majority, like 98% of individuals. There's always those freaks that can work 80-hour weeks nonstop, 52 weeks per year, and still be high functioning. Time off is a valuable thing, and you must put it into your business.
Well, and actually with Microsoft, they ran a test with their Japan office, running a 4-day work week, giving them a day off in the middle on Wednesdays. Friday's sales increased by 40%.
Yep.
Wow.
Right? So there's numbers behind it.
Here's the other thing too. When you look at what happened with COVID and people working from home, you know what actually happened is productivity went up.
Yep.
With everybody across the board, because they weren't stuck in. I mean, the average commute in North America is 45 minutes one way. So now you take that out of the equation. You've got an hour to an hour and a half more in your day with your family. You're able to rejuvenate. I mean, maybe some people are like, maybe not with your family, but what is time off? Voodoo that you speak
What is that voodoo?
So Evan and I were both clicking. So, but Tersh, I'm sure that you take time off and enjoy it with your family, and you have that work-life balance in there, right?
It's the time that he spends out in his quad, or the 4x4 that he has driving around. He's still got his suit on, but he throws the coveralls over top. I've seen those pictures, bud.
Yeah,
they have a game getting their 4x stuck and then seeing if they can pop them back out. It seems like it's a competition who can get your truck more stuck.
Well, let's get back on the rails here. Because we kind of went off the rails here with that and getting squirrely with. Thanks, Tersh, for all of that. So since we're in the mode of shout outs, obviously to find Nate, you can find him on the webs, NateTheHouseWhisperer.com. We'll also put these in the bottom of our show notes so you have those. So that's NateTheHouseWhisperer.com. You can reach also at HVAC20.com. Yeah, I'm saying 20 because if I say 2.0, they're going to put a dot in there and it's going to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
So HVAC20.com. And you can also, if you have any questions, hit him up, Nate at HVAC20.com. That's Nate at HVAC20.com. And of course, follow him on the old Twitter spheres. Energy Smart Ohio is the user handle on that. And again, we'll put that all on the bottom of the show notes for everybody later. So let's say it's my pleasure. Thanks, Tersh. So let's get into the sales part of things. Okay. So now you've done the marketing, you've got them there, you've done you're in your home, you've got the comfort consult done, you've asked the 4 questions, you're sitting there in front of Mr. or Mrs. Jones. Now what?
Well, so you jumped a step ahead there, probably.
Okay, well then we can go back a step if we need.
Rewind. So you asked the 4 questions, and they chose the comfort consult over the free quote.
Yes.
So now is where something that people don't realize oftentimes, they are now in your matrix. So you can set the rules, but you have to set the rules before you get there, which is a Sandler thing. So HVAC 2.0 is based on the Sandler sales process. There's Tanner, Sandler, go home. For being 24, man, that kid is just going to destroy us all. So look out.
Big things.
It's
Once
like baby Senator Palpatine or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, he's incredible. Well, we actually we call him Tyler Durden from Fight Club.
Yeah.
Nice. That's his very strong nickname. He will answer to that name, by the way.
Nice.
But anyway,
number 1 rule of Fight Club.
You don't talk about Fight Club.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Yep, right. So anyway, so they have chosen the comfort consult. So you know that they have some pain. And so you're putting them into your matrix. So you want to set up front. It's very important. The most important rule of the comfort consult is you don't talk solutions. As soon as you go into solutions, you take your consultant's hat off and you put your sales hat back on. So we suggest to everyone to actually tell the clients if they push for that. Look, I left my sales hat in the car. So we send it in an upfront email. We aren't going to be talking solutions. And then we remind them of that as basically the first thing out of our mouths after we say hi coming in the door. And what's funny is one spouse will go and like, well, what about this? And the other spouse will pull them back and say, well, honey, remember, we weren't going to talk solutions today. And so you stay focused on what's bothering them, which is really important. You want them to stew in their pain. You want to extract all the pain out of them that you can so that you know what you need to do to fix it. And also pain is directly related to budget. So the more things that bother them, the more they'll spend to fix it. And so if you look at a house and you're like, they really need a modulating piece of equipment, like you just don't see another way to get there. You're helping build value in their mind. And as long as the price of your equipment is less than that value, they'll buy. I mean, that's just how things work. Money doesn't change hands until, both sides get more than what they wanted, or they get what they wanted one way or the other. So if you have that set, then you sit down with them at the comfort consult and you give them an idea of what the order of operations is. You ask them an hour and a half worth of questions about what bothers them. And you're only going to get crap answers because it's the first time they've heard questions. So the first time you or ask somebody a question, just like if you guys hit me with something that I haven't been asked before, my answer is going to suck. It just is. Like maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it'll be smooth, but I don't know. And but you ask them all these questions, then you go do a blower door test. Have either of you seen a blower door?
Yep.
Are you familiar with that at all? Well, you're Canadians, so I think it was invented in Minneapolis. Well, it might have been invented in Canada. I don't know. It's a cold climate thing. The Minnesota might as well be in Canada.
Pretty much.
I think they say hoose, not house there too. So
what are you talking about?
Yeah, Crazy Moose is loose in the hoose. One of my favorite Looney Tunes when I was a kid. So a blower door tests how much a house leaks. And it's a slightly technical thing, but it's super important to understand. Mm-hmm. So imagine you have a boat that's leaky and there's always water coming into it and you always have to pump it out. Do you need a bigger bilge pump? No. Do you need a bigger engine? No. You need to fix the stupid leaks.
Plug the fucking hole.
Yep.
Right? Exactly. You need to test the house to see if it's leaky or not. Because you can sometimes guess, but you never really know. So if you run a blower door test, you understand, is that house really leaky or is it not too bad? If it's really leaky, load calcs are kind of hard to do because when it gets really cold or really hot, loads actually go vertical on really leaky houses. So it's called the stack effect. So in the wintertime, it's easy to think of when it gets really cold outside, the cold air comes in through the bottom of the house and then it rises and goes up and comes out the top. And the colder it is, the faster that happens. So you increase your load geometrically. It's not linear when it gets really cold in a leaky house. So as an example, I've looked at a bunch of gas bills through the years. A tight house in a cold winter, its bills will go up about 15%, its usage. A loose house will go up 40. Most of that is just in the really cold days. So like I can see sometimes like the daily usage of a couple of houses, and it's just like it's out there, ding 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 ding. So the gas company's going cha-ching, and so you need to understand if that house is leaky or not. So that gives you that, and it's also a show. So it's diagnostics, but dog and pony is also important. Joe Stiebrick of Building Science Corporation. He's a riot. If you guys have ever seen some of the stuff that he does, like he's such a comedian. He's so cocky, but he knows what he's talking about. So he's almost never wrong, and he can just destroy people. I watched him debate the ASHRAE 62.2 committee at a conference, and I said, final score is Joe 25, audience 5, ASHRAE committee of 5, 1 point. They just got destroyed by him. That's just Joe. But he says, if you don't do the show, you don't get the dough. So the blower door test takes the invisible and makes it visible. So now the clients can see that it's leaky. They have a number on it. You can go around the house, and if you close a door and there's a whole lot of air coming out of that door, that room leaks a lot. And so if you discover that any room is really leaky, the odds of fixing that with HVAC alone aren't high because it may have double the heat load per square foot of the other rooms in the house. So unless you can get twice the ductwork there, you aren't fixing it.
Sounds like my entire house.
Your house looks kind of new though, Thad. What year is it?
We've done a lot of renos. It was a 1947 build, and then they did an addition in the 60s that was a shit. They didn't do a very good job, and it's just like I can put my hand against the wall in the wintertime, and it's fucking cold.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just they didn't do a very good job of the house. We've done a lot of renos and updates in it, so it obviously looks a little newer. So cool. So now you've got you've done the blower door test, you've got all the info. Now you're sitting down with them, offer a decline, you're presenting what you need to present them. What's that process look like?
So that doesn't actually happen the day of. But at the end, you do the questions, you do the blower door, you look at the HVAC, you sit back down and you prioritize their goals. So we like scales of 1 to 10. It's kind of net promoter score sort of thing. So 1 is not a problem. 10 is there's no budget to fix it. Fix it now. So we don't really want 10s because they're lying. So if a client gives you a 10, you actually know they're lying because there's always a budget. It may be high, but there's always a budget. So you go through all the questions that you asked them earlier, and now they've had time to kind of percolate, and then you've looked around the house and you've seen which rooms leak or not. You've used infrared, you've done the show, but you've also done the diagnostics that you need to do to understand are more diagnostics necessary or not. But one step ahead. So you sit back down, you're prioritizing your goals, and once you have all their pain on the table, all the things they want to fix, then you ask them a very specific question. So it's not how much will it cost to fix these things, it's what is it worth? And Michael Hausch coined this question. It's if you were renting this house, how much more per month would you pay in rent to make these problems go away? So we're trying to disconnect them. We don't want them to think just dollar amount because it's almost always 5 or 10 grand, maybe 3. But we need 20 usually to really make a big difference in a house. But if you can get them to think monthly, $100 a month over 15 years buys $14,000 with 4% interest. So if you can get a home equity line of credit, you can get that. And so at that point, now you know what their goals are, what the house needs, and what their budget is. And then you can go back to the office and run load calculations, which there's tools you can do this pretty quickly. This shouldn't take hours. This should take minutes, like maybe 10 minutes on the outside. And then the software that we built, and the software is primarily for, we have a fairly long drawn out process where it's a whole bunch of small steps, one step at a time, so people don't get lost. But you need the software basically to keep you on track. So it looks like a subway map. We basically stole the tube and we use that kind of look for it. But you get back, you run your load calc, and it spits out a nice report. And then you make them suggestions. And we actually give them 4 levels of suggestions. Because a lot of people, if you tell them it's going to cost 25 grand to fix something, they aren't going to say yes right away. So level 1 and 2, level 1 is basically cheap stuff, $200 and less. A lot of it's free. You know, like let's run your bath fan more often. Let's just run the air handler all the time. You know, a whole bunch of different things you can just try. Level 2 is $200 up to $2,000. And the goal of all those is to be something that doesn't need to be redone. So maybe they need to vent a bath fan outside, and that might help a mold problem. Maybe they need a range hood. Maybe they need a decent dehumidifier in the basement. You know, things like that. But levels 1 and 2 are basically about burning them out, so that they try all the stuff, and eventually they're like, all right, screw it, just do what you got to do, and they write the check. So level 3 is all the contracting stuff that you suggest. And so that's where you give them a menu of things to choose from. And level 4 is what we call the comprehensive planning process. And only a few % of houses go there. But that's if you walk into a house, you're like, it's a train wreck. I have no idea what to do that's likely to work. We need to do further diagnostics and planning to figure this out. So that's kind of how it works. Either you replace the HVAC, maybe with a duct design, or you do the CPP, as we call it, and it's basically a full energy audit and plan.
Got it. Makes sense. I mean, you're really nailing the value here in terms of why customers need to be looking at this. The obstacle that I can see is there's a lot of information here, difficult to train my team on, costly to, go out and get the equipment so I can run blower door tests and everything like that. So as a business owner, why would it make sense for me to implement this system into my business? Obviously we're creating more value for people, but I want to make sure I'm doing this as frictionless as possible. So what would you say to a business owner that's feeling like that and thinking like that?
Frankly, maybe it's not for you, because this is only for a few people. I doubt this system is going to go beyond a quarter of the industry, because the bottom half we don't want, and then probably the bottom half of the upper half we don't want either. And so the maximum really penetration I see is probably about a quarter. But the people that are coming to us have typically tried to solve some problems, and they just can't. It's the same thing I ran into it as an insulation contractor. Look, I did my job well. Look, the blower door moved. Why is that room less comfortable than it was before? Tanner's hopping in there. Yeah. Evan, you were saying you called yourself a comfort advisor. I think I'm going to bust your balls on that.
Go for it.
So what is...
That was my title. That's not what I did.
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
100%.
But that's a common title in the HVAC industry.
Yeah.
So one of the forms of heat transfer is 60% of human comfort. Do you know which one it is?
No.
It's radiant. So as a comfort advisor, you just let me know that you know less than half of what really matters in a house.
I did it for less than a year, so
there you go.
7 years ago.
It's fine. I sold cars for a short while, so
there you go.
So we've all had in between jobs where you're like, I don't know if I want to admit to this one again. But the question is, do you actually want to be able to solve problems? Have you bumped into things you can't solve? Are clients driving you nuts with warranty reserve? Basically, there needs to be frustration about how the current way of doing things is not working the way that you want. So we've kind of ended up with the good version of the island of misfit toys. So all the people that are coming to us are just pissed off at how the industry actually works and how it basically bilks customers and doesn't deliver good results. And that's really frustrating. Well, there you go. That's Tanner has one of my other answers there.
Yeah, we were going to throw that out.
Yep. Yeah. So HVAC's only half the equation at best.
Mm-hmm.
In a leaky house, it's a lot less. So if you don't test, you're guessing what that house actually is, which Tanner and Retrotech made shirts of. If you're not testing, you're guessing. So that's important to kind of chew your way through all of these things. And I'm going to go tick off Tersh a little bit here because he's been dragging his feet a little bit, but we're good buddies, so it's cool.
I was almost tempted to invite him onto the show, but then we would totally derail it, and that's more of an after hours conversation more than anything. So
maybe we'll suck him on afterwards.
Have some after hours. So Tersh, get your drink ready. There has been a lot of information here, a lot to unpack, and really, if you're sitting here, you can never take me off. I don't know, Tersh. I might be able to.
Is that a challenge?
Challenge accepted. I'm like Montgomery Burns over here. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna try. Anyways, there's a ton of information to unpack, and like there's just so much here. And really, if you're watching this episode or listening to this episode, reach out to Nate, have that conversation, and see if you are a fit for what he's doing to essentially make people more comfortable in their home in a sustainable way. It is an absolutely important thing that I think a lot of people underestimate. We're in the process of moving homes right now. And we get a little stuffed up in this house, and I think our IAQ was a little low, in here, just the fact that it's old. And I actually said that to my wife. One of the things that I'm kind of looking forward to in this new house is to say, I wonder if our new house is going to increase our air quality and be better for us overall. And so it's one of those things that people don't necessarily think about it too much because of their own individual situations. You could be in a new house and everything's rocking and rolling and Bob's your uncle and everything's amazing, right? But if you're in an older house like what I have, there are going to be those challenges and there are going to be those situations. There are ways that you can help mitigate that for your customers, and getting them to obviously be your advocate for you on that. So as we wrap up,
well,
I have one
do you mind if I say one last thing as on piggyback of that?
Sure.
Great. It honestly reminds me of an old saying, right? People often say ignorance is
bliss.
Yeah.
And it's not. Ignorance is pain.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't know what you don't know in business, you go out of business. If you don't know what you need to know in your home, you end up sick. If you don't know what you need to know in your diet, you end up sick. Right? That's ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is pure pain. You need to uncover what it is that you need to know as a business owner so that you can provide more value to your customers at the end of the day. And that's really what Nate has done here, is he's providing a great system that you can implement into your business so that ultimately you could stand out from all competitors and be able to deliver more value to your customers. There you go. Now back to you, Beth.
All right, cool. What is one question you wish people would ask you more but don't? And I'm laughing internally as I ask this because, you said people ask you questions that you've never been asked before, and you're going to stumble through the answer.
I'm going to have a crappy answer. Yeah.
That's why I said when you said that, I laughed, and I'm writing that down. I'm like, I'm totally going to say that to you. So what is one question you wish people would ask you more but don't?
What the hell's wrong with you?
All right, well, it's an easy question. Well, what the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, boy, it's been a long time trying to figure out what we're doing. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. It's just crazy. Figured out a problem, thought we could solve it, and just kind of went for it. So here we go. There we are. Let's deal with Tersh's question there.
Sure. Sure.
So,
but before we get to Trisha's question,
sure.
you still are, as you said, people try to integrate, building sciences in their businesses crash and burn. You found a way to be able to do this
Right.
and do it in the right way, and there is still a learning curve. You always have to continually learn and evolve as an individual. If you remain, and I know there's quotes to back this up, on that, but like you have to evolve, you have to adapt, you have to change, you have to try things, right? I look at our business and what we're doing. We're constantly tweaking, adapting, and changing and trying something. Like I tried something new for a while. I'm like, oh fuck, that didn't work. Well, I'm going to go back to the way that it worked before, but I tried it new, right? And so there's those things that you also have to add in there with a measure of calculability into it, so you know exactly what you're trying, and you can isolate and A/B test that. And so so people can shortcut what you're doing just by calling you.
Well, they can, but so important point here. What we have found, the reason nobody else has found it is a fucking narrow path. And we keep trying to define it further, and then we watch somebody fall off the edge of the cliff. Like, don't go that way. Right, we're going to go this way instead.
But you've documented that, right? That's the other thing is now that you have this it's not a business owner trying to figure it out on their own. It's like it's saying, hey, you guys have had all these other people try it. You know what works and what doesn't. Let's do it, right? Here's hey, don't go down this road. It's a fucking straight cliff down, right?
Yeah.
So if you go
we get into weird fights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Totally. And people are like, why the hell are you digging into that? I'm like, well, because we know it doesn't work.
Yep.
So actually, right before I tackle Tertia's question, a couple of onboarding things, because right now we're building onboarding because onboarding sucks for 2.0, and we know it. But we didn't. We're finally the process has coalesced enough that we can teach it. But for 3 years now, it's been like, well, let's try this and A/B testing, like you were just talking about. Well, crap, that didn't work. All right, so now we need to build this in so that people go this way rather than this way. So onboarding, look up the HVAC 2.0 Advanced Discussion Group on Facebook. That is basically like it's the top 1% of techs in the country. Like the people that are on there, I'm continually amazed at how intelligent they are and how helpful they are to go out of their way to help people. So I love that Tertia's on here because I use Tertia's thing all the time. He got annoyed by people calling him with stupid questions. And he said, if you call me, I want you to have 3 different solutions to the problem before you call me. And if they thought of 3 different solutions, they figured out the problem. So do that before you come on to 2.0. And if you do ask a question, give us lots of details because we need to understand what's going on. But join the advanced discussion group.
So I did drop the group here. It is a long number, so I'm not going to repeat that. I will put that in the show notes after the fact, so you have a link to the group there in our show notes.
Tersh lies. It's all lies. I'm in that group, and it's one of the worst in the industry. Or he said, I'm one of the worst in the industry.
Yeah, he's one of the worst, not it.
Tersh is spectacular at business process. Like I really haven't seen anybody else quite like him. He's amazing. So love you, man. So join that group. HVAC 101 is the next piece. So you want to download that chapter off of NateTheHouseWhisperer.com, or we post it all the time in the group. So I'll post it when we're done here. Put that in your email signature, because the worst thing that can happen is somebody reads it and you sell more. That's the worst thing that can happen. It's free, for crying out loud. Like if it makes your life better, great. I wrote it to help people. If you go any further than that, like I said, everything's based on Sandler in 2.0. So you need to download and listen usually, because most people have windshield time, not time to read nonfiction. Listen to it in the car, any of the David Sandler books. And then if that works, you want to get a free HVAC 2.0 account and try a comfort console. So that's the basic onboarding. Join the group, send out HVAC 101, listen to Sandler, and then try a comfort console. See if it's for you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nate, for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure. Obviously, we have all the channels to reach out to him, so be sure to reach out, join the Facebook group. rewatched this episode numerous times because there was a lot of information in here shared. And yeah, I know my mind's spinning. My mind's spinning already. I'm like, how do you like? I'm thinking about the marketing side. Like, how can you implement the comfort consult and take it to the next level on a marketing side of things to really educate the customer from the get go versus when you get in there. And so it's been an enlightening conversation for us on our end as well. So thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Cheers, Nate.
Cheers.
Cheers. I need to open the next bottle.
Hey, it's all good.
Hey, thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. That URL one more time, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one little golden nugget of information from this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, what we ask is you introduce this show to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all we ask. Introduce it to one person in your contacts list so they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.